welcome to the Remi Review. We're coming live to you from Euphonic Sound Studios in Toronto. Well, it's live for us. This is the show where we're not going to jerk you around. We haven't even got a good reason to jerk you around. We're not backed by any political party. There's clearly no money behind the show. I mean, this is a blue sheet tacked to the wall. It's a fake plant and an alarm clock that gets really hot. All we're really hoping for here from the Remi Review is that you'll go out and do your own investigating. Figure out this stuff for yourself. Please, don't trust Remi Stevens.
World.
How is it that every country in the world has a massive debt? It seems ridiculous, right? What, do we owe money to Mars or something? There's no sense behind this whatsoever. And we don't even owe these debts like back and forth between countries. We just owe them to bankers. There's no actual production coming out of a bank. So what is it that we could possibly owe these people when they don't produce anything?
Yeah! Brat! Yo, we in the newsroom, biatch!
Now you're wondering where these debts came from. Well, banks are allowed to issue currency. That's right, just like the government. And I please look this up. It's called fractional reserve. If they have a tiny bit of assets in their bank, they're allowed to create multiple loans based on that one tiny asset. So essentially you have $1 and you lend out $10. Well, that's how it used to work maybe 30, 40 years ago. They changed that ratio in most countries, dramatically changed it, so that now if you have $1, you can lend out hundreds of dollars, maybe thousands of dollars based on that $1. And this is what the banks have done. They've printed all kinds of new currency. This is where inflation is coming from, because when you print new currency, everybody's individual dollars become worth less. This is why your fuel costs are skyrocketing, your groceries are getting more expensive almost daily. It's all because bankers keep printing money from nowhere.
That's whack!
And here in Canada, earlier this week, we got the news that our banks received $114 billion from the government of Canada.
News fail!
Okay, we're going to look at the Financial Post today. Now, the Financial Post was covering this bank bailout, but they're not calling it a bailout. They're calling it liquidity support. The banks didn't actually need this money. They just needed it. If the money wasn't needed, why did we give it to them in the first place? And if that money was intended to go to consumers and small businesses, why would we even bother bottlenecking it through a pointless middleman of the banking system? And they're charging us interest. We lent them money from our federal government that they could lend in turn to us, and we pay them interest for it.
What?
Okay, so just a quick recap. You go to the Canadian government, hands outstretched, and say, I'm going to need a loan. I don't have enough liquidity to continue normal operations at my business. Okay, well, how much do you need? Well, I need considerably more than the total value of my company in its entirety. But it's not a bailout. It's not a bailout. It's just liquidity. And I've kind of been getting some bad press lately. Could we maybe do this discreetly? Another thing the Financial Post did was put quotation marks around the word secret in their article referring to this bailout, because they claim that everyone knew about this. You remember when Stephen Harper went on the news and said, we're going to give our banks $114 billion, an equivalent amount that the Americans are giving to their banks. You do remember this, right? And the CCPA, the very critical group that released this report, they, I suppose, were part of the conspiracy to hide this information. And they knew all about it and didn't want to say something before the election. They waited until Harper had a majority government to release this highly critical information, right?
Boo!
I can't stand that people keep throwing this word around, this word toxic debt. Guess what? It's all toxic. It's debt. That's what debt is. It's toxic. It's not real money. It's money that was issued and is waiting to be paid back. But there's so much of it out there, it can't be paid back. At this point, we can't even pay the interest anymore. The very idea of debt is toxic.
Yeah, boy!
I mean, these Canadian banks, if you added them all up, they're worth maybe $50 billion altogether. Yet somehow, in the Canadian money supply, there's $1.5 trillion of outstanding debt. I mean, this all seems really simple. You want to stimulate the economy, give money to people who are actually producing something. Bankers aren't producing anything. They sit in front of computers, they play golf, they chit-chat, but they don't produce anything. If your country isn't producing anything, you don't have an economy. All right, question of the week. I'd like to know what you think we could have done with $114 billion. So send me an email and tell me what you think.
Consume!
This week we're going to be looking at Windsor table salt, which has sugar in it.
Sugar in the salt!
Third ingredient. It's actually got 4 ingredients. It also says 0 calories. Now, I'm not a nutritionist, but I'm pretty sure that sugar has calories in it. There's this rule that if your serving size has less than 5 calories, you're allowed to put 0 calories on the product. Because, I don't know, it's too troublesome for a company to write down 3 calories or 4 calories? Is that how it works? You look at things like mustard, they tell you 0 calories, but then the serving size is, a teaspoon or something. Because people take mustard and they squirt it all over the place. I mean, it's mustard seed. Of course it has calories. It's a plant.
Yeah, Remi.
It's telling us that we should have 1/4 of a teaspoon. That's good advice. You don't want to eat a lot of salt. But, I wonder if they'd said 1 teaspoon or a tablespoon. Maybe you're making a bigger recipe. You're putting in quite a bit. The calories might be over 5 then because of all the sugar, but they don't need to mark that on the box because they're recommending you only eat 1/4 of a teaspoon. So, Windsor Salt. First product reviewed on the Remi Review. Now, if the banking industry was running Windsor Salt, what would they do? Well, they'd take a tiny smidgen of fertilizer and they'd put it in the Windsor Salt, and then they'd just write fertilizer on the box. Fertilizer. And oh yes, let's strengthen the Canadian economy. We've got to strengthen the Canadian economy. Let's get some fertilizer in there and get the Canadian economy just cooking again. Bankers. Now it's time for Culture with Jim Smetchland.
Culture!
Good evening. I'm your broadcaster, manager, Jim Smetchland. We're going to be reviewing Remi Stevens today, for lack of a better guest on the show. Tonight, he will be performing a song by Kool and the Gang called Big Fun. And I suppose how he's related this into today's broadcast is that, our government is having big fun burning up the economy. They illegally ended the wheat board recently against the wishes of 60% of farmers. This is bringing in Monsanto and the suicide corn and genetically modified seeds that will destroy other plants. This is also how we've gotten rid of our pesticide laws, repealed in the sake of free trade. We start selling our bulk water, dismantling the Fisheries Act to preserve fish stocks. I guess we're piping crude oil into the United States, even though North America has much more oil than it needs, and we're actually exporting it. So here in Canada, we're not even going to refine it first. We're just going to ship it out of the country and get nothing for it and pay triple the price for our gas when we go to fill our cars. I'm going to drill for oil in the Arctic as well. We desperately got to find more oil for some bizarre reason that none of us are profiting from. You know, this list is too long. Let's just get to the cultural part of the program. I am broadcaster Jim Smetchlin, coming from Euphonic Sound Studio in Toronto. Thank you.